I'm Eric Cagnon, president and founder of We Sell Restaurants. We are a 20-year-old business brokerage company that specializes in restaurant, bars, nightclub, independent, and franchises. I'm also a certified business intermediary with the International Business Broker Association. I'm also a restaurant valuation industry expert, and we have conducted over 3,000 plus transactions over this time. And all we do is work with restaurant, bars, and nightclubs around the country. We operate in 47 states, and we carry over $250 million in inventory.
Well, that's fascinating. So it's a little bit different than a lot of advisors we have on our podcast as guests, and you have a deep area of specialty. And I'm just kind of curious, what led you to this niche or vertical that you decided to focus on. So why don't you give us a little bit better roadmap that brought you to, launching into this, being an advisor, intermediary in the restaurant vertical here as far as business brokerage?
Sure. So my background originally was in banking and retail and commercial banking. And I was a city executive for a bank in South Carolina in a small market that was full of independent restaurants. So we took an approach to properly structure. Most banks shied away from restaurant financing. So I look at an approach from where we actually, if we structure the deal right, we can minimize the bank risk. So we end up financing a lot of restaurants, and I end up learning, because one of the things I believe that if I don't understand your business, I should not be lending money on it. So I spent a lot of time with restaurant owners and chefs and learning the industry itself. So that led me to have a very fond affinity in how hard they work and the risk they're taking and how to structure it for lending. Then I continued my career into Big Five accounting on the merger and acquisition side of things. So I have learned how to actually put deals together from a larger scales, but I use the same principle that we use in large Big Five accounting deals for our practice in the restaurant industry. It's just less zeros. That's all the difference is. So my knowledge of the food industry and lending and Big Five accounting led me to specialize. I said this industry needs help and needs people to really help them to maximize their return if they want to come in or exit the industry.
Okay, when you look at, being successful as an advisor and intermediary, what are some of the personal characteristics and strengths you think that have contributed to your success in what you do today?
One of the things that is big for me is we used to have a syndicated radio show years ago, and we interviewed Alton Brown, who's a very famous celebrity TV chef, and Alton said, one of the things to be successful in the restaurant industry was you must be brutally honest with yourself. And I believe that probably applies to all businesses. And one of the things is we are really trying to be honest with our clients. If you want, one of the things is if you want $1 million for your business and it's worth 250, we will let you know that. But we'll also give you a roadmap how to get to that $1 million if you like to. So we are very honest. We believe there's no bad opportunities. They're just opportunities that are badly priced. And that's one of our philosophy that carries around.
So would you repeat that last statement there? Because I want our audience really to hear that. So just repeat that takeaway there, or that nugget of insight.
Sure. There's no bad opportunity out there. They're just opportunities that are badly priced.
So that is a good takeaway. And I think that is absolutely true. I think that regardless of the type of situation that people find themselves in as sellers or in cages, if they're looking at buying an acquisition, if you're trying to grow and scale your business and you're looking for acquisitions, there are opportunities out there, and it's just being able to price the opportunity appropriately to make the deal attractive on both the buyer and seller side. As an advisor and intermediary, what kind of has been your biggest accomplishment? So not necessarily financially, but an accomplishment that you have a great deal of satisfaction in that you've achieved as an advisor.
I think for me, it's really about making a huge difference in people's lives. Whether somebody is getting millions of dollars for the business and they're retiring and getting their dream home at the beach or in the mountains, but also potentially to get a person to emerge out of bankruptcy and get them an opportunity to fight another day. So there's everything in between, and we make an impact, and we take that great pride in making the best outcome we can for each individual's stories and scenarios. I think that's a very good sense of accomplishment that we have made their lives better at the end of the day.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you have a lot of experience and do appraisals and have experience in the international associations related to business brokerage. Do you offer other services for fee-based, like valuations or consulting or other types of services that you would offer to business owners or entrepreneurs that are looking to sell their business?
We do. Most of the sellers are interested. We usually perform a free evaluation of their businesses. We do some cases where we'll do an evaluation only for fees. We do very rarely consulting. We do not want to be in the consulting business. We really want to just focus on our brokerage part because that's what we do best. So we don't want to dilute our efforts. And I think it would also be our clients that commit to list with us or work with us on the buy side. We want to give them 100% of our time and dedication on that part of the practice.
Okay, now when you talk about all the transactions, I think you said between 3,000 and 4,000 transactions you've been involved in this specific niche of restaurant acquisitions and mergers and all different types of transactions that you deal with. What have been some of the real learning experiences, or I won't necessarily call them mistakes, but situations where you've learned a lot and the transactions were exceedingly difficult? What's been some of your big learning experiences?
I think the big learning experiences, we see ourselves as the quarterback of a transaction. And also one analogy I use is like you're in a school bus and it's full of people and everybody wants to drive the bus, but can only be one driver of the bus. And I think one thing I learned over the years, if I'm not that driver, the chance of that deal closing goes probably from 90% to less than 20%, because everybody, attorneys, buyers, sellers, lenders, accountants, other advisors, all think they are the centerpiece of that transaction. But because of our experience, I think we need to be that person. And the people that trust us usually have a very nice and smooth transition. When I let two attorneys take over the deals, then it's like two children playing with a toy, and then one of them called me and said, the other guy broke the toy, can you fix it? And unfortunately, sometimes we can, but a lot of times it's beyond repair. So I think we've learned that if we have to be that quarterback, because of our knowledge is so specific, we're able to do a better job than anybody at managing all the parties involved in a transaction.
I think that's probably why they use the term business intermediary, is because you really are the quarterback or the coach, and you are facilitating the process as an intermediary, because there's a lot of people at the table. You have buyers and sellers and attorneys and advisors and CPAs and bankers and all sorts of people at the table, and there really needs to be an intermediary that facilitates and gets the deal done. And that's a really insight that I think our audience needs to really dial into and feel comfortable with whoever you choose to be that intermediary, that you personally get along with them, as well as you have a lot of confidence in their skills and acumen professionally. What are three of the qualities that you think it's important for someone in your position to really have, not only, as you mentioned, to being transparent and having integrity, but are there some more qualities and characteristics that if someone were looking to get into the business today that you would kind of recommend them to do? And the reason I ask that question actually is because it gives good insight to entrepreneur and business owner as they're looking to hire and retain someone to facilitate their process, and as an advisor, that they look for these type of characteristics in the different people they're talking to. So what would you say are those three characteristics that are really important?
That's a good question, Marvin, because we franchised our company 10 years ago. So we offer franchises and we sell restaurants. And there are some characteristics that are redundant amongst the successful franchisees and agents around the firm. And I think one of them is, of course, being driven, being competitive, being creative, and also being self-starter, because this type of industry as an intermediary offer you a lot of freedom. And if you take too much of that freedom, you'll not be able to accomplish the goals that you're committed to do for your buyers and sellers.
So what you're saying in your specific situation is that you've used the expansion model of franchising to be able to operate, as you said, in 47 states throughout the U.S. And this gives you tremendous reach. It provides a lot of resources to local offices of the intermediaries that are operating in California or Texas or Washington State or New York or wherever else your offices are, is that you're looking for people that can have that personal relationship, that are driven and motivated and can be professional. And I think it's an enormous advantage when you're looking at dealing with an intermediary in this niche in the restaurant business, that you really focus on having someone that knows the local landscape as well as, the big picture and has resources behind them. So today, as you look back on your career, what trends do you see kind of emerging in the restaurant business or in the field that you deal in that have changed over the last few years? Is there anything that you see on the horizon or has happened recently that has changed the landscape?
Well, I think that's a very good question. I think we've seen over the last few years a strong shift from people wanting to buy and open independent restaurants to going to franchises. People tend to gravitate towards franchises, and of course, with last year and the COVID eras, and numbers have shown that franchise companies, because they had larger team and support and everything, has fared slightly better than independents by quite a big margin, actually. So that's one thing that is interesting, is the popularity of franchise restaurants compared to 10, 12 years ago. Another trend that we're seeing is ghost kitchen. We'll have to see how to value that. Is this an add-on? Is this a model on its own?
What is it going to be? Yeah, rewind that last statement there when you
Sure.
talked about the ghost kitchens. What are you referring to for those in the audience that might not be familiar with that term?
So ghost kitchen, basically you have no restaurant presence on the street. This is a kitchen, kind of warehouse kitchen that nobody knows where it is, and you can only order food via websites or third-party food delivery services. So it's a virtual restaurant from the eye of the customer. You're not going to drive down the street and see a location, but you can go on your phone and order food, and the food will come delivered wherever you'd like to be delivered. And a lot of brands actually are adding concept. People are creating concept entirely based on that without actually having a brick and mortar storefront.
Well, that certainly would alter the dynamics of a food service business, a restaurant business, to be able to deliver food without having the overhead of a sit-down restaurant, and you operate virtually as a native, digitally based restaurant first and foremost, and that you don't have that overhead and you just focus on the quality and the preparation of food. And I think I've seen this. In fact, I know some folks in that business that got started years ago in that business and have done extraordinarily well with that. They were kind of early adapters in this field. And I think you're going to be seeing more of that, this whole issue on how the food delivery services have emerged as crucial to some of the survival in the food service during the recent pandemic. But as you look now, if you had to look back and look at your 30-year-old self, and with all the knowledge and experience that you've gained today, and you had to advise and offer some counsel to that 30-year-old self, what would you tell them today?
Get more trusted advisors. At 30 years old, you think you know everything, but you don't. Find people that you trust and listen to their guidance. That would help you expediting your success instead of learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, some of the people that I've used as mentors along the way that have advised and counseled me and kept me out of trouble sometimes are those that have a little gray hair when I didn't have any, and were able to, give me insight that I just didn't have the experience to have. And I think that's, wise in what you said there. One final question as we kind of wrap up. We're kind of in a post-COVID world now. What would you say that, how has COVID altered the niche that you operate in? Is it going to be a passing thing and we're going to go back to normal? How do you perceive this will have an impact in the future?
I think I think it was an event. This is not something permanent. Sure, some states have been impacted a little bit longer, still are impacted. But I do believe that this was an episode. No lenders, buyers are looking at this as an episode, not a ongoing or permanent thing. We always looked at it from that perspective. Most restaurants have fully recovered and more that we're aware of.
Well, I think that's a shred of optimism there, because a lot of folks that I've talked to really believe the world has fundamentally changed, and we're seeing that the world is coming back to normal. I think it's going to take time, at least, and that's my personal opinion, but people still go out and eat. People are going to travel. People are going to look for vacations, and, we're going to see maybe business processes and how we approach business and how we attract customers and how we adapt by adding additional services to what we do that has been greatly expedited through the pandemic. But I think you're right. I think you're spot on there. And I really appreciate that insight from someone that deals deeply in the restaurant business, because I think a lot of people in many instances at some point in time early in the pandemic really thought that, the whole restaurant business was fundamentally changed and was just going to a large extent just go away to some lesser or greater extent. And I appreciate your optimism on the future there. So this has been a delightful conversation. Again, if someone wanted to reach out and get a hold of you, Eric, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Of course, you can email me, which is sales, SALES, at WeSellRestaurants.com. Check our website, WeSellRestaurants.com. And you can also call us on the phone at 404-800-6700.
Really appreciate you taking the time and sharing some of your insights and background with us and our audience here today. So this is Marvin L. Storm, and we'll see you on our next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Business Exit Stories podcast. For more information or to reach out to today's guest, visit www.businessexitstories.com for more details. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast from your favorite podcasting platforms. And remember, maximizing business value at the time of exit doesn't happen magically. It takes planning.